Hello EFD squad and welcome back to the transfer review. Yes, silly season is upon us and we have Patrick van Straten for one more week. The Lord giveth, the Lord taketh away.
Nice.
Yeah, and who is being taken away from Borussia Dortmund?
Hey. Appropriately enough, a guy called Christian Pulisic on his way to Chelsea for £58 million. Going to join at the end of the season. Now, of course, his contract was due to run out in 2020. And as a result, Michael Zorc, who is the director of football at Dortmund, or sporting director, or technical director, whatever you want to call it, he said it was always Christian's dream to play in the Premier League. Against this background, we've decided to accept an extremely lucrative bid from Chelsea, given the low contract maturity. So that does make a lot of sense. He's 20 years old. He joined Dortmund back in 2015. He, of course, has played extensively for the US international side already. Got 23 appearances and 9 goals in that time.
Yeah, sort of plays as a second striker, doesn't he, for the States?
Yeah, he plays more as a 10 there, or just off the striker. But he's played across that attacking band.
Versatile
Dortmund,
guy,
right?
yeah.
And for Dortmund, over 100 appearances for them, with 15 goals and 16 assists. Now the most expensive American player of all time by some distance. The previous record was John Brooks going to Wolfsburg in 2017 for £20 million. He beats that by some distance. And overall, we're big fans of Pulisic, but I actually think this is possibly this is a slightly better deal for Dortmund. It's the third highest fee ever paid for a Bundesliga player after Ousmane Dembele and Kevin De Bruyne. And they will still get him for the next 6 months as they push on, try and win the Bundesliga. And then a huge fee with just a year left on his contract. So overall, a great move all round. But I think you're going to dig into the numbers a little more.
Yeah, we are, and I really like him, and his numbers are maybe a little bit unforgiving in this regard because his role has changed from when he played under Thomas Tuchel, which is when he enjoyed his breakout campaign, which is when he put up his best numbers. And while I think Chelsea have inherited a very good player here, I do think he is replaceable. And like you said, this is decent business. Jadon Sancho has sort of replaced him in Lucien Favre's system on that right-hand side. And I can't really see this affecting Dortmund, especially if they go and get Torgan Hazard, which is reportedly what they're doing.
I mean, that would be amazing.
With a bit of that cash. But from Chelsea's perspective, I think they'll be hoping that he plays a significant part in that title, and like you've said, because his numbers at the moment haven't been the best of his career. A little bit underwhelming, but he hasn't really got the minutes, has he? So at the moment, 2 goals and 2 assists in 16 Bundesliga and UCL games this season. I believe he started 4 Champions League games and only 5 Bundesliga games.
Wow, really?
Which shows you that he really is being used for rotation. His numbers at the moment, 0.6 shots, 0.8 key passes and 1.7 dribbles per Bundesliga game, although those numbers would receive a slight boost if they're adjusted per 90, because he's obviously getting very fragmented minutes at the moment. Now, we have to temper this with the fact, like I said, he only turned 20 at the end of September. He's still young and he has shown how devastating he can be in the past. His best campaign to date was under Thomas Tuchel in 16-17 when Dortmund finished third, and he made 29 Bundesliga appearances, although only 15 as starts, in fact, scoring 3 and assisting 6. Last year he managed 4 goals and 5 assists in 27 starts, with 32 appearances overall. So contributing to around a goal in every third game, which is pretty promising.
As a teenager.
Yeah, considering I think he broke through a year after joining the academy, so he's played. He's notched up almost 50 starts, I guess, since joining, as a 16, 17-year-old. So not bad progress.
Yeah.
And that's definitely what has shot him to stardom. More interestingly, his expected goals have gone from 0.24 to 0.21 to 0.15 over the past 3 seasons. And his expected assists have declined as well from 0.28 to 0.21 to 0.15, which kind of, I suppose, tells a story in itself that he's being used differently by Favre than Thomas Tuchel, like we said, not as advanced, maybe used more for ball progression than for making that final pass inside the box. We saw him have a very sort of prolific relationship with Batshuayi very briefly, didn't we, when he was on loan there. And while this trend might be slightly concerning, I think Sarri would be fairly confident that his numbers would get back up there, playing in his sort of positive attack-minded system alongside the likes of Eden Hazard, Willian and Pedro. Who do you actually think he'll replace in that lineup when he comes in? Because Pedro's been pretty prolific this season on the right-hand side, 6 goals, 1 assist. Do you think he's ready to start straight away? Part of me thinks he'll take take at least a year to adjust?
I don't know. I think he's ready to start. My problem is what Sarri wants from that team. Like, he insists on playing Hazard as this false 9, which I don't think Hazard particularly likes.
He's not liked it, but 3 goals and 3 assists in 4 starts would bear out a decent return.
But then you're looking for a guy to play in that left wing role, right? But there's almost a part of me that would rather see Pulisic playing in like the most advanced role in a midfield 3 even. Like, try that out, like Liverpool were planning to do with Fekir. At his best, I think he was having 3 tackles and interceptions a game under Tuchel, was helping lead the press really well. And what he's really good at is ball progression, not goal scoring. So maybe he turns into a great goal scorer from wide, but he's never really shown much promise of being that. No. So I'm intrigued to see that on the plus side, he can do pretty much anything for you. He can play in pretty much any forward position. And you'd imagine that a manager as good as Sarri, particularly an attacking manager, is going to get something out of him.
But will it come at the sacrifice of Hudson-Odoi or Ruben Loftus-Cheek? We're going to discuss one of them up next.
Next up, we move on to 2 more Chelsea youngsters. And before we deal with Callum Hudson-Odoi and his links to Bayern Munich, we're going to look at Tammy Abraham, who could be winging his way to Wolves in the January window.
Yeah, for me, this is equally as interesting as the Hudson-Odoi move to Bayern Munich. Tammy Abraham ripping it up in the Championship at the moment. 12 goals in his last 10 games for Villa. And the Sun and the Mail both claim that Chelsea are going to recall him and imminently sell him to Wolves for around £20 million, which I think is an extremely fair price for someone of his potential. Didn't have the best time of it at Swansea, did he? But has rediscovered his scoring form in the Championship, of course, where he was also prolific with Bristol. Now, reliable Chelsea reporter Matt Law from The Telegraph claims they're still just in talks, and it's actually broke this morning that Chelsea would prefer not to sell at this point. I think the fans are already up in arms about Hudson-Odoi leaving, aren't they? Another prodigy being sold for a fairly decent chunk, you know, to bring in someone that's, I suppose, of a more established standard in Pulisic. Yeah. But Tammy Abraham, I think this would be really positive for Wolves. Despite, actually, I also saw this morning, they might be paying upwards of 30 million for Raul Jimenez from Benfica to make that loan permanent. Now, we like Raul Jimenez, good link-up play, has chipped in with a solid amount of goals, but is 27, 28 now, and that is a piece, absolute piece to spend on him, isn't it? Now, back to Tammy Abraham, because, like we said, his numbers this season have been back to his best. 4 shots per 90, 3 of which are from inside the box, and that's always been a hallmark of his game, hasn't it? Finding really good shooting positions. Now, he had 1 spell previously in the Premier League while alone at Swansea. Not quite as effective as he was in 16-17. Struggled to get in the side over Wilfred Boney, didn't he? But probably the manager's fault. Carver Howe wasn't really a fan, was he? He only started 15 games during that period. Still taking 2 shots per 90 in that goal-shy Swansea side. And scored a credible 5 goals in 1,500 minutes. So, not quite the failure that people paint it to be, Patrick. Yeah. But this should be a great rotation option, I guess, at the very least, for Wolves. And maybe more so the finished article than their previous acquisitions like Adama Traore from the Championship.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I would rather pay 18 to 20 mil for Tammy Abraham and just let Jimenez go back to Benfica at the end of the season, I think, if those were the options available to me. Callum Hudson-Odoi is a bit more interesting in the sense that he's kind of an unknown quantity, but Bayern Munich are still willing to spend an absolute fortune on him. They're apparently, according to Sky Sports News, they've had 2 bids already rejected for the player. The second was in excess of £20 million. Of course, he's just 18 years old. And this is an interesting change of transfer strategy at Bayern Munich. Of course, they've already brought in Alphonso Davies, who I don't know if he's even turned 18 yet. They've got Gnabry, who's very young. They've got Coman, who's still very young. And so it does seem like they're stocking up on youngsters at the moment. But if you pay that kind of money, you kind of expect that he's going to contribute straight away. And Chelsea are now saying they want closer to 40 million for him. If Bayern pay that, you've got to hope that he comes in and he's immediately contributing to your side, or that he turns into a genuine superstar. The advantage here for clubs who are trying to take these youngsters off Chelsea is that Chelsea have got to kind of wrap up their loan system. Obviously, the rules have changed on this, and it means that Chelsea can no longer send out, 20, 30 youngsters a season. And so it wouldn't be a bad time to say, who of these guys are actually going to get in our first team? And if they're not, let's sell them on for as much as possible. Callum Hudson-Odoi, though, might be the guy you keep hold of, especially if you do want to play as a striker.
It's pretty ominous when someone like Bayern comes in to the tune of 23 million for him when he's only played 45 minutes of Premier League football. And I read a really interesting article actually recently by Ralf Honigstein, who said that he's had a cult following in Germany for quite some time. I think it was Gladbach who wanted him.
I bet Leipzig
and
did.
Then Leipzig, and now Bayern, and they've all sort of, they've all been scared off by the price tag. But I think ever since he ripped it up at the Under-17 World Cup, a lot of top teams have sounded him out as the guy worth this sort of money, which is incredible when he's only played Europa League football.
Yeah, well, I mean,
really?
the worry they have as well is that his contract ends in 2020, right? And at Chelsea, there were a lot of fans were pleased at the beginning of the season when Sarri came in. He said, "I don't actually care about transfers. I just care about working with the players I have." The problem with that is that if they keep Hudson-Odoi and then Sarri decides he doesn't want to play him, Hudson-Odoi is not going to sign a new contract, and they're going to lose a bunch of money.
Yeah.
Like when the manager, the one advantage of having the manager in charge of transfers and team is that they can figure out how to play their players in order to maximise their value, which is not something that Sarri's going to care about. Hudson-Odoi at youth level, been absolutely spectacular. Obviously, the question is how that will transfer, but 58 games at youth level, 26 goals, 17 assists, which is pretty damn good. And for Chelsea, who are one of the best youth sides in Europe, Sarri has talked him up.
Yeah.
He said he thinks he'll become one of the best wingers in Europe, but the question at this point seems to be whether that will be at Chelsea or not. It seems a little bit like the club might want to keep him just to avoid having to deal with the De Bruyne, Salah, Lukaku stories in 2 or 3 years' time. But what do you guys think? Is he going to stay at Chelsea? Should he stay at Chelsea, or are Bayern Munich going to make this one happen? Let us know in the comments below.
Slight gear change now, going from 2 prodigies to 2 Premier League veterans who apparently could be on their way out. Fabregas to Monaco and Young to Inter.
Oh my God. I mean, the first one makes a lot more sense to me than the second. Cesc Fabregas could be reunited with former Arsenal teammate Thierry Henry at Monaco. According to L'Equipe, the 31-year-old looks like he will arrive in Monaco as soon as next week. And of course, the side need him. They've won 1 of their last 4 games. They currently sit 19th in Ligue 1. He's got 1 Premier League start under Maurizio Sarri this season, 154 minutes played. And it does seem like a waste because he's still very useful. Contract up at the end of the season. So his one incentive to stick around might be that he could get a more lucrative move to maybe a better club in the summer. 2 assists in 4 Europa League starts, 3 key passes per 90. That's been pretty much constant for the last 10 years for Cesc. And he would definitely add some experience and creativity to their midfield, perhaps replacing what they lost when João Moutinho moved on to Wolves. Sarri's claimed he wants him to stay put, and you can understand why. They're in a battle for the 4th place in the Premier League. But Kante, Kovacic, Jorginho, Barkley are all preferred. And as a result, it does seem like Fabregas would rather take the minutes, maybe get himself a relegation release clause in the event that the unthinkable does happen to Monaco. I'm not mad about this. I kind of like it. I want to see Cesc play again.
I prefer
Ping in passes for Ronnie.
I'd prefer him at one of the Milans. And I also think his current career trajectory is making me feel old. Inter fans, are you overwhelmed with this transfer rumour? So another old-timer set to leave England is Manchester United's left-back Ashley Young, although I think they are in talks about extending his contract possibly for another year.
Oh, great.
And if you're going to secure another year, now is the time to strike while the iron's hot amidst all this uncertainty at Manchester United. I can imagine them wanting, to keep the club captain around. Anyway, is Valencia still the club captain?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I think he's vice captain, isn't he, Ashley Young? So the 33-year-old's contract is up this summer, but he is available to negotiate a pre-contract agreement with foreign clubs in this window. And I think this comes in a roundabout fashion. Inter Milan at first interested in Darmian. They were quoted around 15 to 20 million for Darmian, who would be a solid acquisition for that price, in my opinion. But then they felt priced out of it. I think Inter Milan maybe struggling to keep up with financial fair play in certain regards, have extended Mauro Icardi's new contract. That's fairly lucrative. So we're looking for a budget option. And reportedly, they are keen to offer Ashley Young a 2-year deal. And in the hope that a Champions League football might lure him away from Manchester United as well, who, of course, will not be getting Champions League football.
Of all the positions where I feel like you can carry an old player, fullback is not one of them.
Not anymore.
Fullback's not a position where I'm like, yeah, that guy doesn't need to run. Like, that'll be fine.
Also, Asamoah, Dalbert,
D'Ambrosio, Vasalco on the other flank. These are quite a good selection of fullbacks.
Doesn't really make sense, does it? I suppose it makes more sense for him to extend his contract at Manchester United, but I think his days are probably numbered there as well. I think he'll probably accept being a bit part player next year, probably see out the 1-year extension, in my opinion. I don't believe this whatsoever. I mean, Kelsey and Mercato are off their bloody heads here. Anyway, moving on.
Moving on to the transfer shocker, and we have a truly shocking rumour for you. It's Bas Dost, my favourite player. Where's he going?
He's going to Real Madrid, apparently. Goal-shy Real Madrid are going to solve their number 9 problem with the man whose mouth is like a vortex. Put that picture up where it looks like he's trying to eat his own head, editor. Anyway, let's move on to your delightfully constructed part of this script that we did yesterday, because we forgot forgot that we had this show today. Anyway, according to AS, Real Madrid are looking for a striker in January after Mariano Diaz was diagnosed with an irritation of the sciatic nerve. Oh, horrible on that. And ruled out for another fortnight, the latest in a string of fitness problems. And subsequently, Real do need attacking reinforcements. They've only scored 24 goals in 16 games, which puts them 6th in La Liga, 4 goals scored. Levante topping them. So
by a way, not 4 goals.
Not entirely promising there. In fact, their tally is exactly half of Barcelona's 48 league goals. Now, the club have supposedly, as a result, drawn up a 5-man shortlist to combat this issue, which goes Icardi, Werner, Piontek, Llorente and Bas Dost. Let's just go back to Llorente, by the way.
I know, right?
What? Who's drawing up this shortlist? Is it the same person that drew up the centre-back shortlist for Jose Mourinho? Now, the Dutchman, who has been prolific in Portugal since arriving at Sporting CP, has 10 goals in 8 games this season. And apparently Real Madrid want a player who doesn't mind being back up to Karim Benzema whilst also offering, I suppose, a different skill set. And Bas Dost is very good in the air. He could be a target man against a sitting defence in La Liga. But this is very Jose Mourinho at Manchester United, isn't it? In that he would be Real Madrid's Fellaini or Spurs' Llorente and Liverpool's Ricky Lambert. And it's just never worked out in any of those incidences, has it? Bas Dost has a €60 million release clause. If they pay that, I will leave football. I'll go and be a rugby fan. Sporting, you know, I imagine they'd be willing to sell him for half that.
Do you think so? I don't know if they're going to discount it that much. If Real Madrid come in for Bas Dost in January, I'm like, give us 60 mil. Let's just see. They were interested in Rodrigo at 60 mil. Now they've moved on to Bas Dost at 60 mil. What is happening there? I mean, obviously the fee makes it very clear why this is stupid. But it's stupid for other reasons as well. Karim Benzema is Real Madrid's top scorer in the league this season. He's got 6 goals in 15 starts, which is, I'd say, for Real Madrid side, fairly horrible. And to my mind, that means they shouldn't be looking for a backup. They should be looking for a starting centre forward, especially seeing as when Mariano is fit, he's a perfectly good backup. He barely played before his current injury, though. I mean, obviously he has had fitness problems, but he's got 1 league start, 200 minutes in the league, 0 goals and assists. Yay. What is going on there? Like, this is what happens when you don't have joined up thinking, when you don't have a proper sporting director, when you have a succession of managers. Get in a proper manager, figure out what you want to do with this squad. It looks like Timo Werner is going to be allowed to leave in the summer. He's obviously the guy you should go for. If they pay his buyout clause, Bas Dost buyout clause, to get that deal over the line, it will be one of the stupidest things they've ever done, especially seeing as listen to some of the cheap release clauses in Spain right now for attacking talent. Pablo Sarabia, who I think has got 8 goals, 8 assists, something like that for Sevilla, 18 million euros. Pablo Fornals, 30 million euros. Brais Mendes at Celta Vigo, 25 million euros. Why would you spend 60 mil on Bas Dost? He's old, he's limited. You're going to have to pay him big wages and give him a long contract. He's not Madrid level. He's not even the level of your backup striker. Get this rumour in the bin. I almost would like it to happen.
The writer was a Barcelona fan.
Huh?
Do you think the writer was a Barcelona fan? I know AS is traditionally a Real Madrid paper, but I mean, what on earth? This has to be made up.
That's what's mental about it. Like, normally you see these rumours that they're kind of like stirring up gossip. So, for instance, the Barcelona papers have been reporting that Arsenal might buy Keylor Navas. and the Real Madrid papers have been reporting, I think that Barcelona were going to sell Malcolm and stuff, and you normally see those kind of like a little bit of stirring. But this is a Real Madrid paper saying they might buy Bas Dost.
There you have it.
What is happening?
What a note to end the show on. Patrick van Straten, if people are still listening after the words Bas Dost to Real Madrid escaped our mouths, what should they watch right now?
Is this going live today, Thursday?
It is, yeah.
Well, if you're watching this, head over to our channel where you already are. As I was trying to say, stay right here on Football Daily and check out our live stream of tonight's match, Man City versus Liverpool, an alternative commentary, if you will, over on the Football Social. And of course, check out, our 10s, our 11s, all the usual stuff. And follow me on Instagram and Hamill if you're into that kind of thing.
Why not?
Bye.